Is this Jordan brand's return to form? I'm not sure. All I know is that this is a great step in the right direction. Hey, what's going on, guys? My name's Chris. Welcome back to WearTesters. Today we got a detailed look and breakdown on these potential bad boys right here. This is a brand new model from the Jordan brand, dubbed the Jordan Triangle. In case you couldn't tell, the name of the model is actually after the offense that Phil Jackson used to use with the Chicago Bulls as well as the Los Angeles Lakers.
Illuminati.
What we 80s and 90s fans know as the Triangle offense. Now, first things first, this is the box. I was actually surprised that these came in this box just because I haven't seen one of these in a little while. Maybe there are other models that do release in this packaging still, but I was expecting them to be released in the Jordan face box. To be perfectly honest, this old packaging or repurposed packaging is probably why the price point is what it is, especially for the tech involved. Obviously, there are going to be other factors too, like the materials used and things like that, but a lot of people don't pay attention to the added cost or the extra cost that goes into making product. The packaging is one of those things, believe it or not. As somebody that's currently in the process of about to release his own shoe, the price goes up with special packaging. Trust. Now, as far as these guys are concerned, these remind me of my youth. And I don't mean the overall looks, even though there are some things that kind of remind me of some of the older shoes that I grew up with, but it's the concept. It's the overall package. It's the overall product. You have the main tier flagship model, which is in this case, the Air Jordan 40 and soon to be Air Jordan 41. And then you have your subline or your team shoes. Back in the day, we just called them the Jumpmans because there was different versions of the Jumpman Jordans. There was the Jumpman Pro, there was the Jumpman Pro 2, the Jumpman Pro Quick, the Jumpman Pro Strong, the Jordan Jumpman Team 1, and the list can go on. Some of those Jumpmans were signatures, which nowadays there are just Jordan signatures, the Jordan Luka, the Jordan Zion, although not anymore, sorry bro. Baby, bye, bye, bye. The Jordan Tatum, etc., etc. Could this have been one of their signature shoes and just knocked down to a Jumpman series or a takedown shoe? I mean, it's possible. If I was gonna pick any one of their current athletes to have worn this shoe, it feels the most like a Luka. However, it's not any of those things, it's just its own model. And again, I really dig that because you don't have the high $200 price point. These come out about $144, $145, which isn't cheap either. But in comparison, it's much more affordable than the maiden flagship, which is exactly what those team shoes or those Jumpman shoes were for us back in the day. The Jordan flagship was about $150 usually, whereas the Jordan team shoes range anywhere between $110 to $120. Now with those team shoes, performance does come first, and that's the same thing here. I will say that there's one flaw in this that is a very similar flaw to the Luka 5. It's not the main reason why I don't like playing in the Luka 5. That's actually the overall fit. The forefoot, for whatever reason, doesn't even matter what socks I wear, just pinches the crap out of my feet, and it hurts. It makes them go numb in what would be an otherwise awesome shoe. These guys, though, they don't have that pinching feeling. Instead, they got a different issue, which again, I'll talk about later. But first, this traction feels incredible. The way that it screeched over on our hardwood floor over there that we use for our on-foot B-roll left me very excited. Yes, the noise makes no difference in overall performance. I mean, it could be a silent shoe and still grip the floor like crazy, and it could be a very loud shoe and not grip the floor at all. But the way that it was gripping and sounding just really had me excited, so I'm super stoked to be able to take these out. I really hope that they work well. The brand itself is calling the Outsole Heart, which stands for high abrasion rubber tech. The outsole apparently uses less rubber than what their other XDR compounds do use. So the shoes that you see that release overseas that have the little like XDR extra durable rubber tags. Supposedly this has less rubber but is more durable, which is supposed to basically give you a lighter weight outsole with just as much flex and just as much durability, just as much grip. We'll see if that's true or not. But so far, the way that that just sounds, boom shakalaka! At the midfoot, they do have a midfoot shank. It's just TPU, it's not carbon fiber or anything like that, but it doesn't offer too much over twisting. If anything, it's like fairly stiff in that sense. So I think that this might be a great shoe with, again, the one exception of one key area, which I suppose I'll just talk about real quick just because it could be a non-issue, but we never know until we actually get out there and start running around in them. But that's right at the back of the heel. It just contours really, really drastically downward, just like the Luka 5 did. And that ended up making that shoe have some heel instability when you got caught on your heels, which if anybody plays basketball, you know that that happens. It's never fun. Sometimes it's embarrassing, but I mean, hey, you're not playing defense if you don't get caught on your heels once in a while. So if you're a 4-foot heavy only player, I don't think that that'll be a main issue. But if you do tend to like refocus or readjust your overall weight, your balance, etc., and you tend to put pressure on the midfoot to heel section of the shoe, especially on the lateral side, there could be some tipping action going on. I felt it right from the jump. I noticed it as soon as I pulled the shoes out of the box. I was like, oh, that looks dangerous again. And then when I tried them on, it felt dangerous too as soon as I put some pressure in that section. So again, if you're a forefoot heavy player, it might not be an issue whatsoever. But for those of us that get caught on our heels once in a while, everything else from here on out though is just moving up. The cushion feels incredible, except for in the heel. I guess that would be a minor con, but it just kind of depends. Either way, the midsole itself is Cushlon 3.0. That in and of itself sounds awesome. The forefoot, Zoom X, like, whoa. Yeah, seriously, like this is crazy. To have those two materials together is just awesome. And then in the heel, we've got a Zoom Air unit too. Whoa. I know. I will say that the forefoot, you can definitely feel the Zoom X and Cushlon combo. It feels awesome underfoot, fairly similar to the Jaw 3, but in a more stable forefoot platform. The heel though doesn't feel quite as nice. The Zoom Air unit feels like it is bottom loaded. And then it also feels like there's something inside the midsole right here. Like you could feel how kind of hard and clunky that area is. So the forefoot feels incredible. The heel feels a little lackluster. If anything, it feels a little heavy despite how lightweight the shoe actually is. But again, we'll see how they feel while in motion. So fingers crossed that everything feels great. The materials are completely synthetic. There's no raw materials on here. Am I mad about that? Not really. I will say that that's where something like this, like the modern team shoe or the modern Jumpman, definitely is different than what we grew up with in the 90s. Those 90s models were just buttery leather everywhere. But modern shoes use synthetics and textiles and all of that stuff, and that's exactly what these use. I love the way that it looks though. It does remind me a little bit of one of Eddie Jones' signature shoes, the Jordan Jumpman Pro Quick 6, or what's now known as the Jordan Jumpman Quick 23. The forefoot design kind of reminds me of that shoe. Not drastically or anything, doesn't look like a copy and paste, but it just looks like it was a little bit influenced by it. And then the tongue area is not very breathable whatsoever, which I do think is a mistake, but when you remove those laces, the rib design reminds me a lot of the rear design panel of the Jordan Jumpman Pro 2. Outside of that though, they feel fairly unique, although I will say the collar area again kind of reminds me of a Luca. You have the external collar and then the internal sculpting, very nicely sculpted by the way, feels great around the ankles and around the heel. The internal lacing system should help with lockdown, and then the combination of a synthetic toe, these little cutouts right here feel like they're kind of rubbery even though they're not. I really like those though. I just think that they feel and look awesome. More synthetics along the eye stay, and then a carbon fiber looking woven textile on the side panels, both the medial and lateral side. And this piping right here is reflective, just in case you were wondering. The insole is this guy, by the way. I don't think that this is a great insole, but it is removable if you take it out before you start wearing them. If you do start wearing them and then you want to remove it and swap it out for anything else, you might need to use a hair dryer on its lowest heat setting to reheat that glue up so you can pull it out without leaving behind any blue stuff. I do think that the new Jordan font logo is cool. I wonder if they're going to use that for the Jordan 41. Now, in terms of overall sizing, I went true to size, and when I'm wearing my thin socks, it feels like the shoe is a half a size too big, but when I put on my basketball socks, like my thicker WearTesters versions, they feel much better. So what I would recommend is trying these on in store if possible, especially with whatever it is that you wear, whether that's an orthotic, a brace, your basketball socks, just so that you can get the perfect fit for you before you buy them either online or in store, however it is that you like to shop. I can see some people that are definitely like a slim or narrow foot wanting to go down half a size, lengthwise specifically. And then wide footers, you should be good going true to size. I feel like everything is a little bit more accommodating. Again, they just kind of feel a little bit long, but overall, do I feel like this is a true return to form for the brand? Yes and no. I feel like the concept definitely lends itself to what I grew up with, which I again think is awesome. The execution, we'll just have to wait and see. This heel area really has me questioning about the wear test process. I know that I've said this many times in the past, like what, 6 months or so, but like, is there wear testing? You know what I mean? Because I feel like a good wear tester would be able to find this issue quickly, and maybe they did, and maybe the tooling was already finalized. And I mean, the tooling is very expensive to manufacture. So maybe the brand was just like, yo, this is what it is. Obviously that's just speculation on my part, but that's kind of how I feel. I will say though, that just from looking at it, I had already questioned it. And then when I felt it, I was reaffirming basically my suspicions, which is like, yeah, that can be dangerous for some people. And so I feel like just having more eyes and ears inside the room, having people that really know performance and stuff like that, like know the game and the basketball movements, I feel like this would have been caught right away before tooling was ever manufactured. But again, this is just me speculating. I don't know for certain. Until the brand really starts to be transparent about stuff like that, like we'll never really know, which leaves room for the speculation in the first place. However, the overall concept of having a shoe that is affordable, packed with tech, is just great. This is something that the brand really did start with. I talked about it in this video here, the history of Jordan Brand, and I'll elaborate a little bit more in the second part where I go over a lot of the other team offerings. So with all that being said, instead of grabbing a new question of the day, I have one for you guys. If you've tried these, definitely elaborate a little bit more in the comment section, but if you haven't, just the overall concept, a $144 to $145 sneaker, packed with tech, heel and forefoot. I mean, we've got 3 separate cushioning components alone in this midsole, and this is for a non-signature shoe. It really makes shoes like the Book 1 and 2 look pretty bad in comparison. But how do you feel about this? Do you feel like this is a good step in the right direction? Do you feel like this is something that the brand needs? Or do you feel like this is something that the brand already does with its signature offerings like the Lukas, the Tatums, etc., and nobody really pays attention to them because it's a Jordan signature shoe for another player instead of just being a Jordan? Also, do you think that they should have used the Jumpman name on these? I personally do. If these were named the Jordan Jumpman triangles, I think that would have been it really would have tied things back to my era and provided the new generation with a brand new Jumpman series. So with that, sound off below in the comment section. I would love to know your guys' thoughts on all of this stuff. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for watching. We will catch you guys in the next one. Stay tuned for the performance review, and new Sense merch is coming soon. So if you're not already following over on Instagram, simply @SenseApparel, just a heads up. Thank you again for being here. We greatly appreciate your guys' support. We'll catch you all in the next one. So until then, you guys have a good one.